All right, we got a film rant here. We got to talk a little bit about that cancellation of the Acolyte, them not getting their season two. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. I'm Bernard Fields, and we are back to talk a little bit about this controversy surrounding the whole thing of the Acolyte. I mean, I, for one, did not watch the Acolyte. I did vicariously through a number of YouTubers that I follow on YouTube, on this platform. A number of them, they would be considered grifters. And then you would have another side that would become called Shills. You know, people who they felt like, you know what? These people are just out here getting paid by Disney to say all the right things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh man, are they really? And then it comes out that they're not getting paid and that Disney wants these people to give an honest review. And then it's like the people that they're calling out to come have these secret meetings to kind of talk and discuss about their moves and stuff. They're from people who I believe, in my personal opinion, are as unbiased as possible when it comes to Disney and the franchises and the IPs that they own. Disney having owned Star Wars being one of them. And I noticed that this pattern was happening where even when the Acolyte was announced, people immediately started hating on it. And I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, you know, it's not even out yet and people are trashing it, like trashing just the idea of it. People talking about, you know, the DEI, the diversity, equity, the inclusion stuff and checking out boxes and stuff. And I'm just like, look, if the story is good, that's all that really matters, right? Or at least I would think so. But then you have these people out here who call themselves fans of Star Wars, and they're doing one of two things. One of two things are happening with this group of Star Wars fans who are just all about just dumping and dogpiling on Disney and the Acolyte. One of two things. Number one, they are really not true fans. Because I found some people out there who gave honest reviews of this work, and they were able to make sense of what was happening inside of the story. Because you would have these people on one side that would say, oh man, like, why would they even do that? That's stupid. It's not Star Wars. But then this other side would be like, that was excellent. I could see why they did that. And then they would pull out the receipts. They would literally pull out examples from other Star Wars entries, movies, cartoons they would pull from comic books, they would pull from all types of lore to build this story. And I'm like, looking back at the other side, like, wait a second. You guys tried to sell me or gaslight me into believing that the writers of the Acolyte didn't know what they were writing and didn't know what they were doing. Obviously they were. The second thing that can be happening is that these people on this side who are just dismal Disney, they're not true fans, or they're such haters on the inside to where it's like they can't stand the fact that even a little bit of it, just a little bit of it, made sense. Hence, this little poster. A little bit of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like dealing with all of that surrounding this piece of work. I can see why Amanda said what she did when she was saying that, you know, before they can even get their footing right, there was already just this group of people who just didn't want to see it succeed. And they were out there just hating. Was the story flawed? Yes, it was flawed in ways that, again, I did not watch, but just listening to people. If you listen to people and you get yourself a good balance, you can get a good gist of what this piece of work is. Now, I might go watch it because I want to know for myself. I really do. I want to have my own personal experience and personal opinion. But based off of what I'm seeing and based off of the receipts, the people that I've seen just hating this, I'm like, wow, I don't really think you guys are real fans because, like I said, there's a group of people on this side that broke it down. And I was like, that's actually kind of genius. Like deep character studies and deep dives into reasons why people are saying what they're saying, doing what they're doing. And then they would bring up points to where, like, for example, this side would be like, oh, we got lesbian witches out here creating, creating life, and they're calling the force a thread. And I'm just like, let me just talk about the thread real quick. Everybody in this big, vast universe doesn't regard this thing that is out there, this energy, as the force. It's kind of like God. Some people say he's the big man upstairs. Some people call him Jesus. Some people call him Jah. Some people call him this. People call him all types of names. They're talking about the same person, though. You know what I'm saying? They're talking about the same. So for one faction of people who are coming in contact with this energy, coming over to another group or faction of people that's saying, I call this energy that you call the force, we call it the thread, because that's the way we view it. That's a big issue. That's a problem. Oh my God. People were just, they were crying and complaining. It was driving me crazy. Again, people that I semi-respect and that I follow on YouTube. And I'm like, man, these people don't really, they can't see, they can't see, that they are, in a sense, kind of grifters. They're kind of grifting at this point. But you can't convince them of anything. They got a big enough following, and then their followers are kind of almost along the same line, mindset, where they're just like, oh yeah, Disney is just so horrible, and they're out here trying to push forth this agenda. And I'm just like, I'm not seeing that, because the receipts over here are not stating that. The facts, right? But because over here they'll say, well, you got two dudes that created Anakin, or at least that's what the lore says. So it's like, what you guys life wasn't being created by a man and a woman in this universe, like not by the force or the force. Even when it comes to Plagueis, like people were, it's so much. Like I wish I had the time to sit down and break it down. But I don't know. I've been thinking that perhaps I need to create some type of visual arc, like a tier list, so you guys can see for yourself, from one side of those people who hate it all the way to the other side where people are just like, I don't mind it. I have yet to find people who said they loved it, but I found some people out there that said, you know what? This actually makes sense. I can find the silver lining. I'm not about to sit here and pretend that it doesn't exist. This side over here, obviously pretending that it doesn't exist. And they also pretend as if they own the IP. They don't own it. It's like Star Wars is not entitled to you. Now, I get how people say, like, well, the viewers vote with their eyeballs and stuff like that. I 100% agree with that. Like, if your audience is not satisfied, chances are you're going to get canceled. But if that's the sword you're going to die on because you believe that what I'm creating is true to the lore and I'm pulling out the best that I can, a fascinating story, then honor, death by honor, But I would almost say the people on this side, it's like, well, can you write a better story? Can you actually come and fix what's such a huge problem? Like, of course, them talking about this place that was made out of rocks and fire and space and fire on rocks, and it quickly went up in flames. And it's like, that's stupid. That wasn't well thought out. I agree. I 100% agree that the ball has been dropped within the story writing based off of what both sides are saying. I get it. I myself am a story writer. I pride myself in knowing how to write, create worlds and create characters to live in the world and for them to coexist with one another and to have opposite sides. Like I think that's one of the, what makes a great writer is being able to understand both sides and for it to make sense. And of course, to be able to bounce these ideas off to people and to see where it goes, But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that it being canceled, what was it, the right move? For $180 million, I don't know what type of return they got on it. Even if they made a little bit of money off of it, I think that with them establishing new characters, new lore, strengthening established characters and old lore, I think it would have been a wise move to be like, you know what, let's just go ahead and let's continue and let's fix. Let's listen to a little bit of both sides of what we have done wrong, what we could have done better. And let's come back with a season 2. But if those numbers don't add up, then the best thing to do is to say, you know what, we dropped the ball on this one and let's just wipe our hands clean and let's keep it moving. Or, hear me out. I know Disney is not going to watch this. I know those other channels on both sides are probably not going to watch this. They're probably not even going to catch any idea of what I'm saying here. But hear me out. Godzilla -1. Was it -1? 0, minus, whatever. That budget was anywhere between $12 to $15 million. And they are killing it right now. So they prove that the big Hollywood budgets are ridiculous. Like, you don't need it. You really don't need it. Like, they have mastered the visual effects when it came to that film. That film was spectacular. You would have thought they would have spent at least $50 million. No, they spent $12 to $15 million for that film to be made. Hear me out. What they could do, what they should do, in my opinion, is take $20 million. Go ahead and just wrap it up. Like, whatever season 2 was going to be, condense it down into a 90-minute piece, and release it on Disney Plus. And then that way, the people who are the haters on this side, they won't have anything else to say except for probably more negative stuff, because that's what I don't care what they say. They sit there and tell us. They tell us to believe what they have to say because we can't see the numbers. They won't show us the numbers. But they tell us to believe that they're like, yeah, we don't make any money off of this type of stuff. We actually would love to talk about things that we would like. Well, then do it. There's plenty of content out there for you to talk about things other than Disney failing and your precious IP falling by the wayside. There's plenty out there for you to talk about. But they choose to talk about this stuff. And they are contributing to the hate watch that's out there as well. So it's like, don't listen to those folk and just make something to just wrap it up so some people can feel like, you know what, this actually turned out to be good. And maybe perhaps it shouldn't have been a series, and maybe it should have been like a 2-hour film. Heck, make it 2.5. You know what I'm saying? They got the budget, but they could have chopped that budget in half. Instead of it being 180, it should have been like $90 million. Make a cohesive, solid story and put that out there, and everything would have been fine. Everything would have been A-OK. But nope, we're dealing with this cancellation, and people are jumping all over the actors. I for one, would say you have to really, if the story is the problem, you cannot look at the actors. The actors can only act what's on their paper and pages before them. They can't. They can't just. They could improvise, but it's like you can't just change a whole story on a dime on a day of. It's going to be disastrous, especially when you got everybody trying to do that. It's going to be a complete mess, right? So you kind of take what you're given and you do the best you can with it. That's what I could say for the actors. When it comes to the failure, you would have to have story first. Like, story has to be solid. Like, if the script, I'm curious now. What if the script was not what the director actually directed? Because sometimes that happens. A director will get in and be like, I don't like this. Let's go ahead and let's change it up. Let's add this. Let's take that out. And then all of a sudden, it's like the story doesn't make sense. And you're wondering why. Like, how come the story doesn't make sense? Well, because the director decided to get in there and chop the heck up out of it. And then the chopping doesn't even like start and end there. Like the chopping continues when you get to the editing process. And it's like you're pulling stuff out. You're like, well, let's try to shape and mold whatever's there. And you try to make it fit and all that type of stuff. It takes a lot of work, man. It takes a lot of work. So I would say yes to both sides. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But me as a filmmaker, I stand in the middle and I say this. Congratulations to them on making this work. It takes a lot of hard work to pull something like this off. A lot of hard work. Blood, sweat, and tears. Worries, stresses. Regardless if it was horrible, bad, great, awesome. Based off of what I can see, and as you guys have been watching here, kind of on the loop, with just the audio off and looking at it visually, it looks spectacular. I've heard people say that there were some parts of it that it failed. Okay, all right, we get it. You can't be perfect all the way through. It's hard to strive to get that type of execution pulled off. Not that it's impossible, but listen, when people are this close and this looks good. It looks good. I say congratulations. Somebody sat down and wrote something and came up with an idea and they executed. They pulled it off. I would say in closing, could either side have done better? In my personal opinion, I would say no. It's a lot of hard work. I would say even for myself, it would be difficult. It takes a huge team to be able to pull something like this off. And they did it. They did it. So whatever it is that Disney has coming up next, it all begins with story, and story is free. Just make sure that the story is good. Don't listen to the haters, and don't listen to the people that are a little biased and are like, the yes men, I guess you can say, because that can also kind of hurt. I say listen to all of it. Put them all together and just make an assessment. And whatever next project you put out, like, make it good. Do the best you can to tell the story and to be able to make people as happy as possible in the middle. You can't please everyone. And that's something that, we all have to just, learn to live with. So with that being said, I thank you guys. If you have stuck with me all the way to the very end, woo! So much that I had to say, I had to get off my mind. I'm glad I was able to do that. If you haven't already, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Like, am I in the ballpark? Am I missing it? Am I stupid? I'm not a shill and I'm not a grifter. I'm a person who is in the middle who just loves movies. I love film. I love storytelling. I love a good effects. I like to see it executed well. And when it's not executed well in story, then properly judge it and properly critique it and say, well, is the visuals executed right? Is the audio executed right? I'm kind of giving you guys some tips on how to critique here. Is the acting on point? Like, you just can't sit there and just blanket it and be like, oh, it's all garbage, because that would just be a bold-faced lie. It'd be a bold-faced lie. So for everybody out there who said that this film, this series, this body of work was 100% garbage, they are lying. It's not 100% garbage. The costumes were looking great. The acting was maybe iffy there, but you're going to find something, and it would be between a rock and a hard place trying to admit that something was good, because it would go against their brand. It would go against their argument. And if people were really honest with their critiques and knew how to really critique, this wouldn't have gotten such a low rating. This would have, at least out of 10, would probably sit somewhere between a 6 and a 7. But right now it's sitting at like a 10, 15, maybe 20%. This should be sitting somewhere about a 50. So with that being said, guys, go ahead, subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done so. Make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna say that again. Please subscribe. It helps out. Hit that notification bell, because I do drop as often as possible. Remember to always put forth your best. And like I always say, guys, Peace, sin, and confusion. We out.